Okay, you need your tortoise in your hair reading textbook. Open to 348. Rocking and rolling. Our words are coast, edges, epicenter, range, magma, and peak. This looks like a news article to me. Quake shakes town. Yesterday's earthquake caused damage to this house. A small earthquake was felt yesterday on the coast. People living in towns near the sea were surprised, but no one was hurt. The only damage reported was to the edges of a roof. An old tree fell against the corner of the house and even broke tiles on two sides of this roof. The epicenter of yesterday's earthquake is 100 miles from here. This place on the Earth's surface is just above the center of the earthquake. It is located in a mountain range that includes an active volcano. Scientists think this earthquake may be a signal that the volcano will erupt soon. They believe that magma, or melted rock, is working its way upward from deep in the earth. This movement can cause small earthquakes. When it reaches the peak or top of the mountain, the volcano will erupt. Scientists will watch closely to see what happens. They stated that they are sure no one is in any danger. So, rocking and rolling. This is a nonfiction story, and it is rooted in science. By Philip Steele. Down Under. Our planet Earth is huge, about 3,960 miles from the surface to the center. Walking this far would take you about 55 days and nights. You wouldn't be able to walk to the center of the Earth, though, because it's incredibly hot. It's at least 9,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is nearly the same temperature as the surface of the sun. Earth has 4 layers. The top one is called the crust, and it's made up of rock. It's about 25 miles thick under the land, but only about 5 miles thick beneath the ocean. The mantle is next. It is also made of rock, but it's so hot that some parts have melted into magma and are as gooey as oatmeal. Yuck. Beneath the mantle is Earth's core. It is made up of metal and has 2 layers, an outer core and an inner core. The outer core is runny because it's so hot. But although the inner core is even hotter, it's solid. Why? Because the other 3 layers are pressing down on it, and the weight is enough to squash it solid. People have always dreamed of digging down to the Earth's center, but so far no one has invented a machine that would survive the heat. There was a movie that came out when I was sometime in high school. It's called The Core, and they invented a machine in the movie, obviously fiction, science fiction, and they made it to the core. Cracking up. If all the oceans disappeared, Earth would look like just a jigsaw puzzle made up of lots of big pieces. These pieces are called plates, and there are about 20 of them. Plate tectonics. I bet you've heard that before. They float on the lower part of the Earth's mantle, moving very, very slowly, between 1 and 8 inches per year. Sometimes the plates move apart and gooey magma rises up from the mantle to fill the gap. This magma cools and hardens to form new land or even ocean floor. So they used to all be connected, and scientists called it Pangea, but now we're known as Asia, Africa, North, South America, Australia, Antarctica, and Europe. Earth's plates are still drifting, so this is what scientists think our planet will look like in the future. So even more water between us all. Sometimes 2 plates push against one another. The edge of one plate may slide under the other and melt back to magma, or the 2 plate edges may crumple up into a range of mountains, even below the ocean. Quake and shake, baby! Just a few minutes ago, this truck was speeding along the road. Then suddenly, there was a terrifying roar, and the ground opened up. An earthquake. The most serious earthquakes happen deep underground, along the edges of the Earth's plates. Usually, the plates stay jammed close together, but from time to time, a plate can break away. This makes the ground shudder and shake. Sometimes, it can even split wide open. These shudders can be felt thousands of miles away because they spread out from the earthquake's epicenter, like the ripples from a stone thrown out into a pond. Every year there are 40,000 to 50,000 earthquakes that are strong enough to be felt. However, only about 40 of them are big enough to cause any damage. Well, that's lucky. In Japan, there's a National Disaster Prevention Day each year when everyone practices what to do during an earthquake. Volunteers spend the day learning how to rescue people from fallen buildings, kind of like we do fire drills. Walls of water. Most waves are made by the wind blowing over the sea. This is no ordinary wave, though. It's called a tsunami, and it was started by an earthquake. A big earthquake is a lot like a huge bomb going off. The force of the explosion can create a tsunami that travels thousands of miles through the ocean. When the tsunami is in deep ocean water, its top may be only 8 to 12 inches above the surface. But as it rolls on into shallower water near the coast, the tsunami is forced upward into a gigantic wall of water. Sometimes it can be even higher than an apartment building. Tsunamis are very popular in Japan. There's a fault line, an area where two continents meet along the edge of Japan, which is on the other side of this globe here. And when that fault line shakes and shudders and causes an earthquake, the force has to go somewhere, and since there's not ground on top of it, there's water on top of it, and the force of the shake of the earthquake moves the water. Just like if it were ground on top of the earthquake, it would move the ground. This one's scary. Higher and higher. There are 3 main kinds of mountains. Fold mountains, like the Himalayas, form when the Earth's plates crunch into one another, and layers of the crust are pushed up into loops and bumps. You can see the layers there. Some of them sunk back down. Dome mountains happen when magma bulges up beneath the crust. This forces the crust up into a large rounded hump, much like the back of an elephant or a camel. Block mountains are made when part of the crust is forced up between 2 cracks in a plate. These cracks are called faults. Welcome to the top of the world. The Himalayas are the highest mountain ranges on Earth, and the tallest Himalayan peak is Mount Everest. Everest already soars to a height of 29,029 feet. But next year it's going to be a tiny bit higher as it's still growing. Do you remember me telling you about the mountain, the hill in Poto, and how they shovel off the top each year so it's still a hill? It doesn't get too tall. The Himalayas started forming around 53 million years ago when the Earth's plate carrying the land that is now India began crunching upward into the rest of Asia. Inch by inch, India pushed northward, and over tens of millions of years, the plate edges crumpled into the huge ridges, peaks, and valleys that we see today. Going, gone. It took hundreds of thousands of years to make this enormous valley, but although it happened so long ago, we know what did the work. A mighty river once flowed here, and like all rivers, it carried grit and pebbles that rubbed against the land, slowly wearing it away and carving out a valley. The river has long since dried up and disappeared, but look what it left behind. How come these strange pillars of rock are here? Why didn't the river wear them away? Well, some rocks are harder than others, and hard rocks break down more slowly than soft ones. So this area that's gone must have been made up of soft rock, and this that's left is harder rock. The river that used to be here dried up before it had time to wear these pillars completely away. The wearing away of the land is called erosion, and it's still going on today, but water isn't doing the work now. So what could it be, at least in this spot? The answer is blowing in the wind. Day after day it whistles through the valley, picking up grit and sand and blasting everything it touches. The wind works like sandpaper, slowly wearing the rocks down and grinding them into weird and wonderful shapes. Rock is much harder than wind and water, yet, given time, wind and water are powerful enough to shape the land we live on. I hope you enjoyed this story. I don't remember if it's quizzable, but I sure will look up the information for you. And if it is, I'll put it in the description of this video. Have a good day.